Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Christmas edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your secret Santa, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who, much like myself, enjoys spending this holiday season deep inside a seedy bar. I give you the BRENT.
Cheers, everyone.
There you go. Beautiful, lovely. Yes. So, welcome to a holiday spectacular with actual no mention of the holiday in any way. But it should be a good time, Brent. How are you feeling about this week's interesting category? It's a little thing we like to call BAM, pub games. Pub games, Brent.
Yeah, I haven't been to bars. I mean, back in my college day, I lived beside a bar. Like, literally, not like down the block, not like, around the corner. It was the house I lived in and then a bar. So I spent a lot of time in a bar during my college years, which probably explains a lot.
You know, I think this is a category long overdue. I've been wanting to dabble in this because the computers, the consoles, they do have some games that came straight out of the pub scene. I'd say, would you say that the pub scene is more of a, in terms of games, that's a bigger deal overseas than it is here, wouldn't you say?
No.
Really?
Why would you say that?
Well, how often do you go to a bar here and play games?
When I lived beside a bar, literally every day.
What would you play?
We'd play darts, we'd play foosball, and we'd play pool.
Those are the basic American games.
That's
right.
correct, yeah.
Now,
and occasionally we'd play cards.
Right. You've got a few others that would come from overseas, including like billiards. You know, it's
that's pool, Aaron.
What's that?
That's pool.
Well, no, I mean no. That's a separate thing. And you've also got what about the old you were a foosball guy? That's a game I could never get into. And I don't see those in bars that much anymore. Stuff like foosball, air hockey, stuff that takes up space. Most of the bars and clubs I went to, they had 0 games. Every once in a while,
I'm pretty sure that's because you went to crap bars.
Well, that's maybe true. All I'm saying is we didn't do much game playing, and usually when you went back to play some pool, they had one of those seedy coin-operated pool tables. You had to go up to the bar to get the cues. The cues were all bent up and nasty. You put your quarters in and the balls would get stuck in that thing. The table was all slanted and crap. No fun. If you went to a proper...
Yeah, see...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't have that. The sticks were all out for everyone. Our bar, I say our bar, this is the bar I went to when I was in college. It had a bar section up front with tables and booths and, of course, the big old bar. And then there was a doorway that you'd go through, and they had more booths back there, like overflow seating, if nothing else. And they had 2 pool tables, a foosball table, an electronic dart board, I'm trying to think. They had 2 arcade games that they swapped out every once in a while, and that's where people would go and usually would go and drink if they were with other people and wanting to play games and whatnot. And all of the equipment was decent shape. No one stole stuff, so it was a respected bar, I guess.
That's an unusual bar because most of the places I went were not like that. Along the tradition of going to your pub and playing games like that, I talked to some people in Discord to get their opinions on what their favorite pub game type video games were, just to touch the nerve there. One of the ones that came up immediately was the old Tapper, which I think fits a bar perfectly, and you would actually see those at a bar back in the day occasionally. A lot of times when I went to bars later on, they had these bar top games that did like trivia and stuff. Do you remember those?
Yeah, trivia was one thing our bar never did, because usually you have to have... Now, you can have electronic trivia, and you could do that without someone emceeing it. But the trivia nights we did have at the bar, which were very few and far between, they had someone emceeing it, would ask the questions to the bar, and people would have sheets of paper. They would write down their answers. and then tournament at the end of the night. They'd score it up. Usually the winner would get something, a free meal or whatever.
The good thing about those bar-topped video games, in fact, we owned one of these briefly. I don't think we ever.
Yeah.
Do you remember what type that was? I can't remember off the top of my head.
And not just off,
but
not
they
just off
were
the
generic
head.
as heck, and they were everywhere. And you could play a bunch of different games. And the best part is, since it was setting up at the bar, you could just keep drinking, and you don't have to talk to anybody, and you could just basically be a complete loner and sit up there which is generally what happened. You didn't see usually a crowd of people huddled around those things.
Of course, if you're doing that at a bar, you're kind of missing the point.
Well, it depends on why you're at the bar. Some people come to the bar to socialize. Some people come to the bar to be seen, and some people come to the bar just to drink until their brain explodes. And those are the ones that sit there and play the game. Some people just sit at the bar and drink and just put their head down on the bar. Those are the worst ones. They're almost done. My bar hopping days are far, far behind me. But I've been to a million different ones. And like I said, I could tell early on that the games were just being phased out. And a lot of games, even when I used to go to pool halls, we covered snooker on the Amigos back in the day. And that's something we had a couple. I remember going to a couple of different pool halls that had the table set up for snooker, and I haven't seen one of those for decades. So I'd say that one's pretty much totally gone.
Yeah, I've never seen that over here in the States.
Oh yeah, pool halls used to have people used to play that here, but it's one of those things that have left. I just don't think people go out to bars anymore. You've got the rise of the arcade bars. That sort of
the barcade.
Yeah. And those, which hey, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean it's a different vibe than you would get in a traditional pub, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and I think that's different in a good way. We actually have a barcade. We've been to a couple times. Fairly close. It's about 30 minutes away. And usually people are very jovial. You don't get the head down on the bar guy. And people are running around, they're playing and having a good time. There's a lot of screaming and laughing. One thing that's odd though is there's a lot of kids in there, like a non-drinking age kids, and apparently that's something they allow until a certain point in the night.
That's no good.
When I guess
that's a horrible idea. Do they still serve booze while the kids are in there?
Yeah.
What the heck?
But so does Applebee's.
Well, you got a point there. I never thought of it that way, but that doesn't seem right. I will say, when I went to a bar back in the day, this was a seedy, smoky affair. It was a lot like wrestling. Most bars I went to were dimly lit. They were filled with cigarette and cigar smoke, and people were drinking, having a good time. It was an older scene than a barcade would be. With people that were drinking that were in your 40s and 50s, where I would wager that your barcade scene, your demographics are going to skew quite a bit lower.
Well, this barcade's in a college town, so you get college people.
That makes sense why they built that sucker. Well, with all that said, it was our task this week to look at the wide array of games that were based on things you might do in a pub and pick a couple winners here, Brent. And we're going to start with you this week because I will say I was surprised by your choice, an interesting choice. Why don't you tell the folks what you've gotten yourself into this week?
I chose electronic table soccer for the Odyssey 2. And as soon as this was spun, I thought to myself, I'm doing a foosball game. I played foosball back in college. We used to play tournaments. I'm talking 16-team tournaments, usually between the different fraternities. And I was an alternate for our fraternity. I wasn't good enough to make the main team, but I was fourth on the roster. And I learned how to do so much with a foosball table. We had a foosball table not only in the bar beside us, but also in our fraternity house. We played a lot of foosball. And foosball is a very interesting game. And if you are good at foosball and you can make the ball do what you want, it's a very entertaining game. If you aren't good at foosball or you only play it once or twice and you're just spinning your guys as fast as you can, hoping something good happens, it's a stupid game.
That's me right there.
And I will have to say, electronic table soccer for the Odyssey 2 simulates foosball in a way I was very surprised that it did. I went like I searched long and hard for a foosball game for the retro systems. There are nearly none. I thought for sure that the Atari had one. It does not. It is actually a modern game that someone is making currently, and they haven't worked on it for 8 or so years. So I went to a more modern system looking for different foosball games, and this is literally the only one up to like the PS3 and the Wii. So this is it. And it wasn't until I started playing this that I kind of understood why. Foosball, normally you have more rows of men than you do on the Odyssey version. And at first I thought they limited it due to the limitations of the system, but that's not what they did it for. It was the limitation of the controls. Electronic table soccer has one of the most interesting control schemes that does something that I never thought possible, and it makes you think about the controls even as you're playing. The way it works is you have 3 rows of men that you control. You've got your back goalie, your middle 3, and your front 2. And to control them, you either hold left on the controller, which would allow you to operate your goalie. And to move him up and down, you move diagonal left up and diagonal left down. And if you want to control your center guys, you just move up and down. And if you want to control your front 2, you hold right and go right up and right down. That is genius. It is absolutely genius because it allows you to pass the ball on your own line while you're moving up and down. That is something that is vitally important to actual foosball. If you're just spinning your sticks around, it's not a big deal. But when you're playing actual foosball, the way you're supposed to, the way more professional people play it, skilled people, I should say, passing between your men in the same line is vitally important. And this allows that to happen. Also, if you aren't moving a set of men up and down, which means you wouldn't have your hand on the control rod in real life foosball, it bounces off your guy instead of being caught by it. And that is super interesting because that is something that happens in foosball all the time. You try to make a pass and you can't get to the control rod next to it in time, and then it just bounces off your guy. So the level of control in such a simple game is absolutely extraordinary. It is one of the best examples of innovative and creative controls with a joystick that I have ever seen. And that, among everything else, impressed me enough to actually want to own this game. So I'm actually going to buy this for our Odyssey. That's right. This is the first game, I think, ever in ARG history that I was so impressed with the game that I'm going to seek it out and purchase it.
It must be good because you're cheap.
What was your opinion?
Well,
what was your opinion on this game?
I will say, when you picked this, without me looking at it, just by the name, I'm like, electronic table soccer. What the heck is this? And then the second I loaded it up, I'm like, all right, I got it.
Table soccer is what it's called over in Europe.
Yeah.
And we're more accustomed to hear it be called foosball.
I read that this has many, many names. Yeah,
it does.
And this was released for the video pack, it was released under a different name. This absolutely fits the bill of what we're doing here. I'm surprised that this isn't something. I mean, listening to you, and it's funny, I don't remember seeing a video game version of this, I'll have to say. Yes, the controls are wacky. I had a heck of a time.
They're awesome.
I had to look up how they worked. Thankfully, I found one place that listed how they work, and even then, it was hard. But, honestly, I suck at foosball. I'm no good. All right, so I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, I thought this was. I mean, this does a pretty good job of simulating foosball in a weird way.
It does an excellent
using
job.
It
does an excellent job of skilled foosball.
And it does it in the patented Odyssey 2 way with the little guys, the big semi-round ball. We've seen it in a bunch of games, but this is not bad. I do want to mention that the much like all the Odyssey games, or most of them, the box art's the bomb. It just looks great. Odyssey 2 games are the best looking carts almost exclusively. I mean, they are the best. Beautiful, black, sleek.
They go above and beyond.
They sure do. Yeah. And it's funny because I've got the multi-cart for the Odyssey. Our Odyssey's keyboard's not working right now, so I can't. I've got to fix it, so I had to emulate this. But this is it. Would I go back and play this? No, but it's not because it's not good. It's just I'm not good at foosball. But I mean, yeah, I think this plays a pretty decent game of foosball, all things considered. And the fact that they would even attempt this is stunning. I believe the guy that programmed this is the official guy that programmed like a ton of Odyssey 2 games.
I believe you're correct. Yeah.
He had a good feeling for what the Odyssey 2 could pull off, you know. But this is one. This is probably if you're into foosball. Now it's funny you're saying that. You're telling me that all the different consoles all over the years, and you never found any other foosballs.
That's correct.
That is stunning to me. I was waiting for some.
It's because of the control.
I was waiting for someone in the chat to say like, "Hey, what about this?" Because they almost always do when you say something like that, and no one said, "Hey, what about this?" Which leads me to believe that you may be right.
A few other things to note: when you move the ball downfield, you actually press the button, you hold the button, and then you are free to shoot it either diagonally up, diagonally down, or straight. So it gives you even that kind of control. And the spinning motion when you actually do kick the ball serves a purpose. It makes it so you can't immediately move that row. So if it gets kicked right back to you, you can't catch it. So while normally in a skilled foosball player would never spin their rod, it does serve a purpose in this, so it's very easy to overlook. This is a 1 or 2 player game, and the skill level of the computer I found very adequate.
I was surprised that it had 2 player or one. I was surprised it had 1 player support. I was stunned by that.
Yeah, and I'll have to say I never found like the sweet spot where you could always score, or you could always get your pass through. And it's not unfair either. The computer doesn't cheat. If it couldn't normally catch a ball, it doesn't catch the ball. It bounces off their guy. You play to first to 10, which is long for a foosball game. Normally you play best to 7, first to 7. But again, these are all so little knocks on the game that it's not even worth mentioning. If you are a foosball player and you are a retro gaming enthusiast, which I'm going to guess those two do not overlap very often, but if that describes you, you owe it to yourself right now to go and find this game and play it. Because if you take the time to learn the controls and learn that you can bounce it off the walls, you can bounce it off your other guys, you can deflect shots in, all of that's very valid and incredibly fulfilling when you pull it off, and just a complete joy to play.
I want to mention, since we talked about it, the guy that programmed his name is Ed Averett. He literally programmed the majority of the Odyssey 2 games. Just to go down, down the list of some of the ones he did. He did Attack of the Time Lord. He did both the Casey Munchkin games. He did Pickaxe Pete. He did Quest for the Rings, Brent. He did almost all the big titles on the O2, with a few exceptions. This guy was a prolific programmer for the O2. I believe he was just a Magnavox employee, as I recall, or maybe I can't remember if he got picked up on spec work or whatever. I mean, this guy cranked out the Odyssey 2 stuff, and I mean, he did some good stuff. And so you got to, and this is something that just because you're a good programmer doesn't necessarily mean you can pull this one off, because this is going to have to take somebody that knows what they're doing. So one would assume this guy probably played himself some foosball. Well, I would wager.
Well, and even beyond that, like I said, overcoming the control scheme on this, to be able to control your guys while one person has the ball, control your other guys to get them set up. Sure, it's sheer genius, Aaron. It's sheer genius. And obviously, this guy knows what he's doing from a design standpoint and a programming standpoint, and that is so rare. I mean, it was way more capable of that kind of thing back in the day, but holy cow. Thumbs up to this. I believe we had a Discord review on this, Aaron. Do you have that pulled up there?
We did get a review here from our good buddy Jack Flack. Jack writes, I'm dating myself here by saying that I got and played this game when it was new. The fact that the players had...
That's impressive.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. He is dating himself. The fact that the players had heads, arms, and legs put it above Video Olympics and similar games on the Atari 2600. Surprisingly, the controls work well. Just make sure you use a stick with easy-to-reach diagonals. I wish there had been a vertical line to connect the players and make it look more like actual foosball. The AI is passable in one-player mode, but like many games from the era, are more fun with a friend. This game was more fun when I didn't own a car and had never played real foosball. 6 out of 10. So I can understand where he's going.
I think 6 out of 10.
I can understand where he's going.
6 out of 10 is low.
Yeah, there you go.
I think this is at least an 8. And if you're just looking for a retro foosball game, well, that's the only thing you can do. It's an instant 10 out of 10. Again, personally, I think you have to play this game just to experience the controls. Just understand going in that it does take some getting used to. And if you're just going to play it for 10 minutes, don't even load it up.
There you go.
But if you're willing to give it a half an hour, you're going to be playing it for 3 hours.
I agree.
So
I will have to fetch your bag. So good work, Brent. I have to say that you picked the one there that I didn't expect, so I'll give you credit on that one. So when I heard we were doing pub games, Brent, there was only one game that I could do. This is a game I actually started doing a look at years ago on Amigos channel, and we had this slated to review on the Amigos, but Boat was worried about its more risque content and sort of vetoed it. But it's always been in the back of my head here. I'm like, man, one of these days I'm going to pull this sucker out. And today's the day, my friends, because risque is my business here on ARG. And this is a game that I think is not that risque, frankly. But still, there you go. We're going to talk about good old-fashioned bar games, Brent. Bar games. A game. And I've looked at the Amiga version, but the DOS version is very similar. So this game, released in 1990. It was published by Accolade, developed by Ars Tech, who really only did one other game on the Amiga, Day of the Viper. This is the Viper. Remember that G.I. Joe? Yeah,
yes,
that's one of the all-time great.
I'm here to fight your windows.
That's one of the all-time great G.I. Joe cartoons. This came on 2 discs and allowed 4 players, Brent, to compete in a series of games that would sometimes, so some of the games would appear in a bar, and some of the games are the actual bar for all intents and purposes, making this a true game that is a bar game or a pub game. The game series were very popular series, the winter games and summer games, and so why not have bar games, which, of course, this is coming out from Accolade. This was their effort in the game series, although it's not really related. So what do you do in this game? Well, again, you play games that take place in a bar. There are 5 mini games, because that's the way they used to do it back in the day with these games. You had to have the mini games, Brent. You get the first game on the list is a game, Liar's Dice. Now, Liar's Dice, you play with the bartender, and it's a game sort of like a poker or something. You place bets, and you each have 5 dice. And what you're doing in this game is you're both rolling dice. And let's say I get, for example, if you look at the screen, you get 2 6s there. Remember, the bartender also rolled dice in secret, so you don't know what she's got. And you're trying to guess how many of a certain number of dice there are, and you keep upping that bet to hope that she either folds and gives you the money, or she calls you and you're right, The one thing you don't want to do is over or underestimate the number of dice. This game used to baffle me because I was trying to read too much into it, but it's the simplest, stupidest game there is, Brent. And it's sort of fun. I kind of like Liar's Dice. You're going to notice that going through bar games, the aesthetic, the graphics and stuff, they're all well done. They look nice. They look like you're sort of almost like a traditional bar, like Cheers, the old TV show. It's what it reminds me of. What did you think of this little section here, Liar's Dice, as a mini game?
It stinks.
What?
It stinks.
No, it doesn't.
No, I don't enjoy this. You're right. It's a completely luck-based game. If you're playing this in real life, you try to read the person, and they try to simulate that by having you be able to read the bartender's thoughts. But the problem is the bartender's thoughts aren't always right. So you're basically just luck. It's basically luck from beginning to end.
There's bluffing involved too.
How can you bluff an AI?
You can bluff them. But I think I like this game. I don't think it's luck. I'm always done pretty well at this once I learned what I was doing, because it's not that hard. If you roll 2 or 3 sixes, you can guess that they've probably got at least 1 6. So you're playing the percentages here. It's just like gambling of any type. You just try to play the percentages and do your best. It's a lot of fun. I should mention that since this bar game supports 4 players, you can even do a little tournament of Liar's Dice if you want. I like Liar's Dice. It's a simple game that is something I could see it playing at a bar. I will say this. I've never seen this played in any bar. But
no, you would never, ever play this in a bar.
But still,
never.
By God, it's on there. So now, that's Liar's Dice. So the next mini game, probably the most controversial mini game. I'm going to have to be very clever with my editing here. This is Wet and Wild. This is probably the best game of all these, where it's a wet t-shirt contest, but it's the most extravagant wet t-shirt contest ever put on stage, where it's your job to dump water on the girls as they walk across the stage, and you try to soak them as much as you can. That's the goal. All right? Yeah. Well, they make it easy at first to soak them. You just dump the buckets, but then eventually a spotlight starts coming up. If you dump the bucket while the spotlight's on you, you get electrocuted. And then eventually, some chick will show up at the top and just start dumping your buckets. And so if you dump a bucket with water in it, that's a bucket you don't get to use. So you get hosed. And eventually, there's a guy that appears up above you in the video, in the area where they show the girls, that drops weights on you, 10 ton, like 1 ton weights, dumbbells and stuff. They try to whack you with those. So it gets quite manic at the end as you're running back and forth, trying to soak the girls. There's a bunch of different girls to soak, each one more attractive and more risque as the game goes on, Brent. I found this one entertaining. I've always enjoyed it as a young guy. There's a titillation involved, I guess, in this. But I mean, really, if this is what does it for you, you really do need to go to an actual bar, because this is, in terms of risqueness, this is not that bad. Certainly not by today's standards. What is your opinion here on Wet and Wild, Brent?
This is the most game there is. And it's, regardless of the revealing nature of the concept, it's the most entertaining game part. Now, that said, it's still just not great.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
I like this one, personally. This is my favorite of the bunch. So, we're going to move on to, this is another one here. This was called Last Call. So, Last Call is a game where they saw what Tapper did, and like, we can make that convoluted and complicated. We can take care of that, and that's what they did. They basically picture Tapper, except instead of one long bar, you've got a bar that extends in levels above you. Like, I guess it's all the same bar, but they've just split it up so you can see the whole bar on one screen. Well, what does that mean? You're serving drinks to customers, and you're serving drinks to customers who are on different levels of the bar. And so you have to hold your throw the cup thing more to get them further down the bar. Eventually, as you get higher into the levels of this, there's a little gauge at the bottom of the screen that helps you measure how far you need to throw the cup. and eventually you start losing the little guidelines in the gauge, so you don't know exactly. You can't go by guidelines anymore of how strongly to pitch the drink down the bar. You do this for I think it's 5 nights as the bartender, and your goal is just there's a certain quota of beer you have to serve, and there's a timer. So this gets another one that gets hot and frantic. I didn't like this one at first, but as I've played it over the years and gotten better at it, I've enjoyed it more. It's an interesting take on the Tapper game. Is it better than Tapper? No, but it is different, and it's tough. This is probably one of the tougher games in the collection because you have to get these throws of the mug perfect. If it's slightly off, these things will fly up in the air. And if it's just barely undershot, these jerk patrons, they won't move a muscle to get that booze. They will just let that thing drift right in front of them and fall on the floor, and they won't do nothing. So you've got a bar full of jerks. That's for darn sure. But I thought this was an okay game. It's a little different. If you like Tapper and you want something else, this is probably the game for you. What'd you think of this one, Brent?
This is probably the second most game-like game there is. Yeah. It's okay. Like you said, you're just seeing where the patron is that is next up to get a drink, and you are just looking at the meter at the bottom to judge how far to throw it. And unfortunately, if there was more to it, if there was more to pouring the beer, because pouring the beer is automatic, so you are literally just watching the gauge at the bottom every single time, which, when you boil down the mechanics, it sucks. You do have to note that some of the patrons that are closer in line will try to reach their hand out and grab a beer that's meant for someone else, and then they'll knock it over, so you'll have to throw it again. You do have a limited number of beer glasses, which, so if you break too many, you will you can lose that way.
Get fired.
It's okay. It's okay.
This one grew on me.
It's okay.
It grew on me. I like it more than I did when I first came across it. Having played Tapper, I thought, man, this is nowhere near as good as Tapper. But this is still fun, and it is unique enough to be its own thing.
The problem is it's repetitive.
Well,
being repetitive is its job.
A lot of the games in this collection, what they count on is that raising the stakes and making it quicker and more romantic. The more action will sustain the game further, and I think it does to a certain degree. So I kind of dig that one. So next on the list, another traditional game you would play at a bar, the old air hockey table, Brent. This game pits you in an air hockey battle. I believe you fight 5 different characters on your way to air hockey championship. Yeah, it's 4 characters. You've got Clyde the Geek, Nina, Willard, and Barbie. This is just your straight up traditional, no frills air hockey. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It says okay. That's just the way it is. I like it though. It looks pretty good. It plays okay, but there's not a whole lot to say about it. What'd you think about air hockey?
I played the DOS version of this. I thought we were playing the DOS version. So the pause between goals when so someone scores a goal and the puck appears back on the table, the pause between when the puck appears on the table and the action actually starts back up is 6 seconds. 6 seconds where you're just sitting there wishing you were dead. It completely kills the flow of the game, which is subpar anyway. When you say no frills, you ain't kidding. The table is super long but not super wide. And is it air hockey? I mean, I guess, but when you hit the button, it shoves your puck forward, so you can get a little bit of extra power that way. I did not like this. And you have to beat all the opponents twice, which means you're playing the same guy for like 10 minutes, even if you just score all the goals continuously. Nah.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a really bad representation.
Well, I don't think it's that bad, but it's not. It's nothing to write home about. I'll give you that. But it's okay. It's not that bad. So last on and certainly most interesting, I think, in terms of its wackiness, is your last effort, and this is the old game that you play in every bar, is Pickup Artist. Pickup Artist is a game where you're trying to pick up a date effectively through a series of questions, and each girl has different things you need to tell her to try to advance your advances, if you will. This is the goofiest part of the entire game, but I will say this is the one game in this entire package that actually happens in every bar. It's the only one, and it's the game of the pickup. There are supposed to be tells that I've read that will help you determine what you should talk to the girls about, but if you boil it down, it's a series of lies that you tell. Most of them, I mean, they're literal lies you just make up. You may tell her that you're a marine biologist. You could be a minor league pitcher. Whatever it takes, you're gonna lie your way in, and eventually, a girl will talk to you. You can give her a flower, and ultimately, if you can pull it off, and convince a girl that you're the bomb, she will go with you and have a night on the beach. It's a G-rated night. There is no nudity or anything in this section either. Really, like I said, this game has that rep of being super bawdy, but in actuality, this is far less bawdy than, say, a Leisure Suit Larry or something. I mean, there's really not that much bawdiness in it. But this, I will say, this is one of the wackier parts of the game. You spend a whole week trying to seduce a lovely lady at the bar. Brent, what did you think of the Pickup Artist?
Well, see, you forgot the biggest problem with this.
Okay.
You're when you're picking your choice, it's actually, you don't just press up and down and choose whatever you want. It bounces around randomly, and you have to time it.
That is, but I mean, it starts off slow.
No, that makes it stupid.
Well, that's what does it, eh?
This the whole game overall is stupid. But when you want to pick out, man, what's the dumbest game on here? Bam, you're looking at it. And it has nothing to do with its, oh, that's sexist, blah, blah, blah. No. It has everything to do with the whole thing is you're trying to pick up on these clues and follow your own lie. But you can't do that because the cursor's just bouncing around all over the place and you don't get anywhere. Stupid.
One would assume that was added to make this more of a game, because if you play this once effectively, you could pretty much just, and you're successful, you could pretty much just go through it every time. So at least this gives there's a certain element of skill involved as the cursor bounces around. But yes, it is stupid. It's stupid. This game, part of me likes this just because it's so stupid. I mean, and it does fit the collection in a weird way. It's got great graphics. Everything looks nice. But it is in terms of gameplay, it's incredibly stupid. So there you go. But it's funny. It fits the collection, I think, very, very nicely. So that
if someone has this loaded up, I highly encourage everyone to go and play each of the games once, except for air hockey, because that takes forever and it's horrible.
It does take forever.
Just to say, yeah, I played that and it is crap, but don't go out of your way for this game. Don't purchase it. Don't think, oh, that's clever. None of it's clever. It's a collection of 5 mini games that are crap.
Well,
and
I don't agree with that. Allow me, if I may, to defend bar games, because I'm going to.
You can't, because I'm not done hating.
Oh yeah, I'm defending it right now. So listen, bar games, a great. When I was a kid and picked this up, I was very impressed. I felt like a big man because I was a kid that had this more adult game. But it's not too adult, and the games in it are pretty fun. I think Liar's Dice is a hidden gem. I really do. I think the wet T-shirt contest is fun. The bar serving game is pretty good. Air hockey, I'll grant you, is not the best, and it's long. And the Pickup Artist is hilarious, but it's stupid overall. But this was still a fun collection, and I thought they tried to do some different things here. I always wonder why they didn't have a sequel to this, because there were so many other bar games you could play. But they never did come out with one. I think this was a pretty good seller as well. So one would wonder. I was also surprised this didn't get released on more systems. I couldn't figure that out either. But I think it's it's innocent fun for a boy or a girl to sit at the house right on the cusp of manhood. I remember having a good time playing this when I was a teenager. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I think it's one of those games where you had to be there back in the day, Brent, to appreciate it. Maybe it doesn't age so good now.
No. If you want a game, this is a horrible game. If you want some kind of I'm a man simulator, there are better I'm a man simulators out there. Go play a Leisure Suit Larry. Go play a oh gosh, I guess Leisure Suit Larry is really the. But
this has nothing to do with Leisure Suit Larry. This is your games, bar games.
No, these aren't games. It's a collection of crap. Liar's Dice, absolute crap. Because the whole point of Liar's Dice, if you're playing it in real life, is to bluff. You can't bluff an AI. Okay?
You can.
So it's crap. The Wet T-shirt contest is the only game in here that actually requires using your controller to time certain events while dodging other obstacles. Okay, that's a game. That is okay. Okay, air hockey it is so slow and so tedious. You'll want to just choke yourself to death.
If you're watching the video now, this is how exciting it is. When the puck gets stuck in the middle of the table and you just sit there waiting an hour for it to move.
Exactly. If you the pickup line thing at the end, you could at least if you actually chose what you wanted to do, you could actually kind of make that interesting, trying to figure out the story that you're trying to tell. But with it, the cursor just randomly popping around, and it doesn't even go in an order. If it just went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you had to time it, that'd be okay. But it doesn't. It just randomly jumps around. Crap. I can't even. What am I forgetting, Aaron? Oh, the beer toss game. It's okay as an actual game, but at the end of the night, all you're doing is watching a little bar fill up over and over. It's just one button hold, and then you let go. One button hold, and you let go. These aren't games, Aaron. These are distractions.
Nah. I think you're being too hard on this game. I think it's fun. I think it's something you should definitely experience, and it's certainly unique. We had a review sent in by Flack on this one. Flack writes, "You know that party game kids play where they sit around in a circle, whisper something into each other's ear, and by the time it gets around the circle, the message is all weird and distorted? Bar game feels like that. Like the person who started the message had visited a bar once, whispered what it was like to 10 people, and the guy at the end of the chain programmed this game. Have you been to a bar where you played dice with the bartender or asked to pour buckets of water on rejects from Flashdance walking across the stage? The only realistic part of bar games is the pickup game, in which you have to repeatedly guess what you think hot women want you to say, and most of the time what you're saying is wrong. There's only one bar game in real life, and that's drinking enough watered-down beer to make the ladies attractive, but not too much so you still can drive home. When the happiest guy in the bar is a bow-tie-wearing nerd hanging out at the hockey table, it's time to find a new bar. 5 out of 10. That was sort of a burial by Flack.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he sort of killed the game right there. I think it's a fun game that I've always enjoyed. Please, go patronize your local bar and play some games. I think that's
not right.
That's
now.
the message we're trying to put out.
Now.
Go right now. You're gonna need a stiff drink after this show.
No, don't go. Don't take your pandemic butt.
Oh
to the
yeah,
bar.
I forgot about the pandemic. Dadgummit. Well, that means bar games is more important now than it's ever been. It makes you feel like you're sitting at the bar.
Here's a better way to feel like you're sitting at the bar. Go get yourself a nice beer, turn off all the lights, start crying, and then you go and have yourself a nice drink.
You know, that's a good lead-in, because that's exactly what I do when I put new pieces on the wheel. Oh, here we go. All right, Brent, this week we've added a couple real winners to the wheel here. I got Bally Astrocade as the new piece, and the Retro Rewind piece is the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, Brent. So we got a stack, we got a loaded wheel here today. And position this the cunning, clever way. All right, what are you rooting for, Brent, as you look upon it?
Fairchild F8.
Okay, the F8. Well, that might be interesting. Here we go. It's a good spin here. Get it right up in there, and the winner is... Oh no, it's the high score challenge, Brent. Brent, explain what in God's name the high score challenge is, because I don't even know on this one.
Well, this is a community-wide participation event. Aaron, we must decide right now what the high score game is going to be.
Okay, and then what happens after we decide that?
We are going to play that game and offer to challenge the community to see if we can beat their high score.
Shouldn't we play something that we're good at already? Otherwise, we'll be humiliated in the public eye.
Well, go ahead and throw a game out, and then I'll throw a game out, and then we'll talk about which one we're going to pick.
I think I speak for everyone when I say that the high score challenge should, nay, must be bar games, which put it right in there. Brett, 2 weeks of bar games in a row.
No.
I knew that would fly.
I'm thinking Popeye for the arcade.
Popeye. Why that one?
Why not?
Why don't we each pick a game? That way we could still do a shtick on it because otherwise we just could show up and be like, here's the high score, and there's not much of a show behind it.
All right. I'm going to look at Popeye, the arcade release.
We're going to announce it right now, are we?
Yeah, right now. Pop it out, Aaron. High score game. Go, go, go.
Okay.
You're taking too long.
Give me a second? My God, you stop talking. Let me think, for God's sakes.
Popeye.
Okay. I'm going to pick. Does it have to be an arcade game? Brent, you're not talking.
You can pick whatever you want.
Well, I mean, don't fall asleep. I gotta think of something here. You put me on.
Well, you're taking so long. I fell asleep.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna pick. I'm trying to think of something we haven't done.
Well, preferably something that has a score.
What about Gyrus? The arcade version of Gyrus. No, I take that back.
Okay.
Since we played it on... No, I'm not going to... The Atari 2600 version of Gyrus. That's the one I'm picking right there.
Okay. So, everyone out there in the community listening at home or possibly watching live, we want to see your high scores of the arcade version of Popeye and the 2600 version of Gyrus. You can send your scores to argpresents@mail.com. Just slap in a nice little screenshot there. You don't have to record it all and any of that garbage. Just a nice screenshot.
I think we should also accept people at Discord doing it. That would be
absolutely everybody.
Listen, these ask the audience things are always death. So we're depending on your kind mercy to show up with some high score action. Hey, destroy us. We're begging to be destroyed on these games. Although I think I'm going to destroy Brett at both these because I'm better than him at both these games. But someone in the audience might be able to give me a run. Probably not though.
So there you go. We'll compile all the high scores. The cutoff will be Saturday at midnight. You have to have your score in by then. And then we'll pile up all those high scores and announce the winner on the show next week. And we will talk about Popeye in the arcade and Gyrus for the 2600.
That's a motley crew indeed right there. Hey, listen, we want to tell everyone before we call this thing off, we hope everyone has a lovely holiday this coming week if you celebrate these. And if not, just have a good week. We will be back bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Now, Brent, I should mention that we've got a special show coming up on the 23rd, Brent. It will be the streams will cross, and we will have quite an event where the people from ARG, that's me and you, the people from Amigos, that's me and the boat, our buddies from Pixel Guidan, which is Eric, Cody, and Sanction, and, of course, our buddy Jack Flack. We're all going to get together for one mammoth show. It'll be a mammoth holiday episode of, I guess we'll call it Amigos, but it's more just like everybody. And it should be a happening. Again, we'll be filming that live on the 23rd of December. So, Brent, on that exciting, well-organized note, we'll take this thing to the house while the getting's good. Thanks for joining us this week. Have a safe holiday. Until next week, Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. Hello to our YouTube subscribers and our Twitch followers. A special thank you to Duncan Styles for our vector graphics and BartBit for an amazing closing theme. Want to help keep ARG spinning for as little as $1 a month? You can do so at our new Patreon at patreon.com/ARGpresents. Just like these fine folks: Graham W. Vetke, Rollo, Olaf Hope, Anthony Jarvis, Terry Howard, Gary Heather, John Schaller, The Slow Norris, Frodo NL, Steve Rasmussen, Bernhard Lucas, Chris Folds, Mitsuyama, Jason Warrens, Rob Black O'Hara, Andy Craig, Dave Velociraptor, Retroalgy, Hermsky, John Dykeman, Jerry Dennington, Z9K9, and Mr. B. Don't want to explain another credit card bill? That's okay too. You can help us out by leaving us a positive review on Spotify or Apple iTunes. Have an idea for a wheel piece? Email it to us at argpresents@mail.com. We film live every Sunday, 10 a.m. EDT on Twitch. Hope to see you there.